Hello everyone, welcome to PaintingCrafty, and it's another paint along night, and tonight I'm going to be showing you how you can do the watercolor steps to create this pretty little winter landscape scene. This is a little pasture, these sweet little sheep are hanging out there. I'm going to show you how you can create those winter style trees by scratching into your paper and tapping in little bits of watercolor to create that very dramatic night sky. Well, let's get started. I can't wait to show you the beginning steps of how you can create this beautiful little winter landscape scene. Let's go over some of the supplies I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the Canson brand 140-pound watercolor paper to paint this on. And I've used some Scotch Magic tape to go ahead and tape it down. It's a great idea to put the tape on your clothes first so you get a little bit of fuzziness underneath there, a little less chance of ripping up your paper. But this will help keep it lay a little bit flat. I do have a Ko-fi membership. That's where I host all of my sketchbook membership there. That's where I have the tracers, and my members will get the line drawings for that as well. So it's really easy to join. I'll have a link down inside of the description box where you can check it out. Now I have already done my tracing and I've recreated my sketch. I like to use a light box when I do this. And if you need to lighten your line marks after you've drawn it, you can simply use a kneaded eraser, and that will pick up some of the graphite without smearing it everywhere. If you need to absolutely remove it completely, that's when you want to use a high polymer eraser. That way it will erase it completely. Well, that's the beginning step, so let's go ahead and move right on in to the watercolor. We're going to go ahead and start the watercolor process, and my sketchbook members will also receive a color swatch that shows them what colors I use, but definitely use whatever you might have. Well, we're going to start the background first, and we're going to be working on the night sky first. I'm going to be using the color Prussian-blue and Payne's gray, mostly to go ahead and create the background. I'm going to go right over this. I'm looking for a nice, rich, dark night sky. So I'm going to be brushing in these colors. They're probably mixed to about tea consistency. No, I'm going to change my mind. Coffee is consistency. They're a little darker. I want this to be nice and rich. I'm going to go right up to that line, my snow line, and I'm going to be adding my colors in. You want to have a fair amount of this mixed up already, so you want your colors to be nice and wet and moving around well. I'm going to pick up some of the Payne's gray too. Pop that in. I want that little bit of a darker look to it. I'm going to add that color in. You can see how it is kind of nice and juicy up there. I'm being very generous with my color. Let's pick up a little bit more of that Payne's gray, add that color in there. Pick up some more of that Prussian blue and the Payne's gray mix. Okay, I'm going to take in a little bit of black actually and move that down here just a tiny bit. Now I'm going to take my picture and I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to turn it upside down, and hopefully you can see I'm going to let my colors run a little bit. I'm going to be trying to create some texture, like it's going to look like it's got some trees that are already going there, and I'm going to let that texture work for me. Concentrating my color just at the base and letting it work. You can kind of, hopefully you'll be able to see how it's starting to run, and it's creating these fun little textures in my background. And I want that dark, distinctive look between my snow and my night sky. And just let those colors run just a little bit more. And then we're going to be working on our trees ever so slightly. All right, so let's go ahead and flip it this way so you can kind of see how that's kind of cool, how it does that little bit of line work. Now I'm going to take my stylus, and I've already hand drawn some of these little trees in here. I don't need to follow it exact, but I'm going to be coming in with my stylus and pushing gently and creating these little trees that are in the background. I'm indenting the paper. Technically, I'm damaging it because I'm coming in and doing these little line works and creating these little dents in here. They won't go away. They're going to be there. So whatever I put down is going to be a part of my painting. Let's go in here and put one here too. I can kind of see my pencil marks still there. We're going to be adding more watercolor, so we don't need to worry about it too much. Making a little thicker branch, or the tree trunk here, just a little bit thicker, and then it's going up and being thinner as it's coming out. Okay, that looks great. Now I'm going to be taking some of the Prussian-blue, not a lot of water this time. It's mostly pigment on my brush. And I'm going to come in now and I'm going to tap a little bit of a tree shape. So I'm starting skinny at the top and then working my way back here and there, leaving a little bit of space. And I don't have a lot of water on my brush. It's mostly pigment. And I'm creating this little tree. It's a pine tree that's going to be in the background. Mostly a lot of pigment. Because my background is still wet, it's going to work with that. So I'm looking for a little different type of top. Hopefully you can see that. Let's do another one here. Let's come on this spot here. And I'm basically using the tip of my brush, starting skinny at the top and then going out as I go, just tapping irregular shapes as I'm going back and forth. So my tree is getting fatter as I'm going down towards the bottom. You might have to add a little bit more water to your brush if you find that your color isn't quite moving for you. But hopefully you can see how pretty that looks already with just having a little bit of water and mostly pigment. And because that background is dry or wet, it's going to move around and create these real pretty looking trees. Okay, let's add another one here. Okay, I'm going to pick up some of that Payne's gray, but it's going to have a little bit of pigment in there. This is going to be darker. And this time maybe I'll make some shorter ones. Now if you get a lot of color in one area, so like up there I have a lot pooling, I can come in with toilet paper actually works really well, but you can come to the edge and just pick up just a tiny bit of it, just draw it up a little bit so it's not so pooling. Like that. Okay, let's add a little bit more of this darker Payne's color. I think that looks good. Now let's just let that dry and really soak into the paper. You don't want to use your hair dryer or any fast dry purpose on that because it'll go really light. So you want to just give it time and let it go ahead and dry on its own. Let's bump down and let's work a little bit more on this fence line. So I'm going to come down in an area that is farther away, so it's not going to interfere with that part up there. And for my fence line, I'm going to be starting with my burnt brown a little bit, and I have a little bit of blue that's left over from the top, mixed it in, and I'm looking kind of for like a warmish brown color. And I'm going to be painting these, and now it's probably going to be about coffee consistency to tea consistency. These are a little bit more blue than what I probably want them, but I will be layering over a couple different colors, and this will be my lightest color, and then I'll be laying over the top. I don't have to be exact at this step. This is just that very informal fence line look, so it's got just this rugged, rustic looking fence line. I'm going to pick up just a little bit darker on the brown side while it's still wet here, mix it in. It's got a little bit of the blue in it. And I'm going to lay in on one side just a little darker. And because my colors are wet, and then I'm going to do it on the bottom side of each of those little pickets. And because it's wet, it should kind of do a wet on wet blend look, so my lines shouldn't be too harsh. But if you feel like you have two distinctive lines, you can always rinse your brush off, give it a squeeze, and then come in and tap those areas with your clean water, a little bit of clean water in your brush to help move your colors if you feel like your lines are too distinct. And these ones kind of are a little bit strong. Okay, let's let that dry and see what we get. Now let's go ahead and do some snow work here. I'm going to be picking up some of this that Prussian-blue originally, watering it down really a lot. So it's probably more like a tea consistency. I don't want much color. And then I'm going to be layering in just a little bit of the snow color here underneath my tip there, a little bit here, just a small amount. And I'm going to pick up this darker blue-gray that I had used for my post, and I'm going to create kind of a little line that would go like a shadow line that would be for each of the posts that would come this direction. Where it's a little bit of a jiggle like that. Okay, that looks great. Let's use that same color again. Let's water it down a lot. And I'm going to come and do a little bit of snow color underneath my sheep, just a little bit. This is probably still a little too wet yet, so I want to just work a little bit more here. Just a little bit more, brush it in, but I can come up there a little later after it's dried. I'm just going to brush in a little bit of the color. A little bit here too, so it doesn't look like doesn't have any snow. Okay, let's let that dry. I'm going to add some clean water up here just to soften my snow lines just a little bit. Okay, I'll have to go a little bit closer up there. Now for my sheep, I'm going to be taking some black, the black color here that I have, and I'm watering it down a lot. So I want just kind of a cool shadow on those little sheep. Almost nothing. And I'm going to be tapping that in a little ways around my sheep. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the light brown too, a warmer one, and add that maybe to the bottom of my sheep. I still want my sheep to look white, so I don't want to get too much color on them. Otherwise, they'll totally look like they're dirty little sheep, and I don't want that. I'm going to pick up some of that brown again, and let's add that. This has had plenty of time to dry. This is a student grade paper, so it's going to dry quickly. And I'm just quickly flicking my brush and creating these little grasses here. So I'm starting at the bottom and then flicking them up to give it that grassy look. And for these areas, I'm coming just to the tip, tap, 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 and then drag it out. So tap, 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 drag it out. So I'm creating those little bit of grass lines or shadow lines ever so slightly. Now let's pick up a little bit more of this blue that's mixed a little bit with the gray like I had used here, and let's add just a tiniest bit of shadow underneath my little sheep. All right, let's leave that there. Let's add just a little bit of blue up here. I think it's okay. Let's add the tiniest bit of blue here as well for the snow. Let's finish up in this area. My paper is pretty much dry. Aren't those trees really cool how they turned out? They're super simple, and it's just a fun look about having that sky. And it's going to change yet because my color is still sinking in, but it looks great. All right, let's work a little bit more on these trees up here where I had done the little bit of line work on there. I'm going to come in with some of my Payne's Gray, and I'm still using a number 10 brush, but you could bump down. I don't have my brush box here. Let's see. Oh, yep, I do. Let's switch out a brush. Let's switch to a, ooh, mercy, I have a lot of things sitting around my desk tonight. Let's switch around to a long round. Let's do a number 8 and see if we can't get some really fine lines with this brush. So this is a long round. It has a very long point on it, and it can work really well for adding these little details. So let's add some of the Payne's Gray, and you can flip yours around. I work better if I bring my small lines towards me and not away from me. So I like using my brush this way. Let's get a little bit more paint in there so my bristles stay together. A little bit more water because it was splaying a little bit too much. I want all of those ends to be together. And then let's go and follow some of these lines and actually go away from them. Where I originally done those will actually be a little bit darker, and then these will be a little bit lighter when they dry. Where the crease is, that will be dark. And where the watercolor is, that will be light. So these are little squiggly lines. And you can add and go away from, so these are the small little branches of your tree. Let's do this one here, kind of concentrate down at the bottom. A little bit more. Okay, so let's flip it over and take a look. Yeah, I think that looks good. I like that. So a trick is to turn your paper upside down and use a pointy brush and pull those lines to you. They will just work a little bit better, or at least they do for me anyway. I like that hand motion better than trying to go like this. Regardless, I'm pulling away from my hand. I'm coming in and adding just a little bit darker trunk there. So we'll see how that dries and if we need to add any more lines or not. But hopefully you can tell how they're going to have a little different look than those other ones that I had done. Now let's use this brush, the same little brush. Let's rinse it out really well. And let's pick up a little bit more of that darker brown. This time we're going to have a little bit more pigment in it. And let's add another depth to these little grasses. So my brown had faded quite a bit. So let's add a little bit more in there. I'm doing light pressure and then pulling them. This ones are a little wispy towards me, but I'm using the tip of my brush. My brush is fairly loaded. Okay, that looks good. All right, let's take a little bit. Now my original one, this is a little bit more lighter gray, but I'm liking that color there. I think that looks good. And so I like the change. I can never paint the same 2 times in a row, so I don't expect myself to make my picture look exactly how I did my original. So it's going to be close, but there'll be differences, and I kind of like the fact that there is differences. Let's pick up a little bit more of the blue, and let's create and work on these shadows just a little bit more. So I'm thinning that blue down. I switch back to my number 6 round brush. Let's add a little bit more color here. The base, working on these little shadows a little bit and going at an angle. So it looks like those are, okay, cool. All right, now I did add a few little dark spots up there too. So let's add some here, just to add a little bit of interest there. That looks good. Now let's work some on that wreath, and I'm going to be using the color Hooker's Green and a little bit of Emerald, and I'm loading my brush. I have a lot of pigment on it, not a lot of water, and I'm just going to be tapping it in, leaving a little open space so I can tap in another shade of green. So I want to do Emerald and I want to do the Hooker's Green. Now I should have done that post up above there. There's a post up above there and in between and down below, so I did forget those, so I do need to add those in. I always forget something. Okay, let's pick up a little bit of that emerald green, tap that in there while it's still wet. Let those colors play a little bit. That looks good. The center of my bow is going to be red, and I got to make sure I get that area in the middle for my posts. Let's maybe do just a tiny bit more of this brown color here. Water it down, fairly amount. Let's add that a little bit to my posts. bring them a little bit closer together in tone. So I don't want to lose all of that brown or that blue that I originally did, but I want to add just the tiny bit more of that color. So it's the blue and the brown. Let's add that. Kind of rushing in there a little bit. I probably should have waited. Okay, that looks good. Let's switch up the color just a little bit on this snow hill here so we can see one is behind and one is forward. It works well when you're doing snow if you use it horizontally this way. Let's maybe pick up just a little bit more of this color, these grasses. Mixing a little bit of the fence color here too, bringing it down. I like to carry my colors throughout my painting, so if there was a way I can continue and move it down, that works out well. So there's a nice clean line here where you can see where that's the hill and where the snow starts and stops there. The night sky starts. Let's tap a little bit more of this green on here. And I want to make sure it's kind of irregular. I don't want it to look like just this round little ball. I want it to have a little bit of motion and some interest. Let's pick up some of that darker green again. Lay that in there. Okay, so we just about have it done. Since I'm waiting for that to dry, because I have to let that dry before I can put the red in, let's go ahead and stop the video and I'll let it dry and then I'll come back and add the pen work in. I'm still waiting for my green to dry, so I'm going to do the little detail work on my little sheep. I'm going to make the faces scribbly bits here of making them black. I don't have to worry about them filling all the way in, just kind of a general sketch motion for them. I want them to have that very much that hand sketch look to it, so nothing exact. And then around the outside, again, I'm just doing irregular line work and not filling them in all the way because I want it to have that more open feeling, irregular feeling. I'm okay with, I see, with some of my pencil marks. That will help fill in maybe some of the areas that I'm creating naturally. And we'll do this little sign here. Let's do just the tiniest bit of line work, little scribbles underneath the feet just to anchor them a little bit. And maybe here, just a tiny bit, not a lot. Now I'm going to be using this too. These should be dry enough to do. And I'm going to be going back and forth, doubling up on my lines, maybe adding some wood texture just by light pressure with my pen. I'm using the Micron pens. They will be permanent once they're dry. Making those little kind of, I don't know what you call them, the little nails, I guess, or the whatever it might be that's holding the post together. They would be connected where my lines, where the boards behind are connecting. It's going to give it a little bit more rugged feel. Again, not super exact. Carry a little bit more of that grass line here. Okay, so let's work some on that red bow. So I think that's dry enough. This doesn't have a ton of water in it. Let's put a layer of the red in. This is a combination of the Pyro red or the Cad red, I guess, the Cad red, and a little bit of burnt brown. So I wanted kind of more of that rustic red look. And it doesn't have to be exactly the exact shape, as long as it's kind of got a little bit of a bow feeling to it. The eye is going to read that it's a bow on a wreath out in the middle of the country. All right, that looks good. Let's go ahead and let's make it snow a little bit. Let's take a little bit of the gouache in titanium white. A titanium white gouache will be more opaque than some of your other whites are. This one has had a chance to dry out just a little bit. You don't want to add too much water to your gouache. It will become fairly translucent if you do. So if you want more of an opaque snow, you need to add some water without not adding a lot. Kind of a dirty water. It's going to be blue snow, I guess. It's loaded on there. And my sky is dry, so if I tap this on here, I'm going to get more of a structured dot. So my dot pattern will stay like that. If my paper was wet, my gouache would spread out more and I wouldn't have exact. Let's add a little bit down here too. Let's make it snow everywhere. Now, if your snow gets too translucent, you just need to back up the water and you can re-sprinkle it again. And I think that looks good. Let's take the tape off and we'll see what we have, and then we'll put it in a frame and we'll take a look at what it looks like in my studio sitting in a frame. Now, watercolor is not a permanent art medium, so you need to either put it behind glass after it dries, or you can clear coat it with a spray varnish or even a wax that is made. A wax will work too. Okay. And here's the painting, and I framed it in a rustic red frame, and I think it brings out that little touch of that red bow perfectly. If you're new to my channel and you like doing art and crafts, come on over and see what I'm doing. I'd love to have more creative friends join me. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. It can really help my channel grow. If you enjoyed this tutorial, here's a couple more videos you might want to check out. Well, thanks for joining me tonight, and hopefully you'll come back and join me again, and perhaps next time you'll paint right along with me.